The following podcast is being brought to you by the Defy Life Podcast Network.
Welcome to Aftergate, powered by the Defy Life Network. Aftergate is a podcast series highlighting Colgate alumni of color in their professional endeavors after Gate. Aftergate is hosted by Alvin Glimpf, aka Al, and Herman Dubois, aka Jerry. We are doing Aftergate because Colgate University has produced innovators who have changed the world every day. Yet many alumni of color in the mainstream Colgate community are unaware of the amazing accomplishments of Colgate alumni of color.
Welcome to another episode of Aftergate. I'm Al. I'm here with my co-host Jerry, and we are here again to have this conversation and talk with alumni of color and have a conversation about their accomplishments after Colgate, what their life was like at Colgate and even before Colgate. So looking forward to this. But first, let me check in with my co-host first. Jerry, how you doing, sir?
What's good, brother? What's good? All is well. I
Good,
can't
good, good.
complain. Lived another week alive and free. Can't take that for granted these days, so I'm blessed.
True indeed. Good to hear your voice. Good to hear your voice. Um, we got a good show planned today. Looking forward to it. So let's start with our introduction. So let's see. We have Mr. Stephen Williams from right outside of Philadelphia, class of 91.
Yeah.
And that means you graduated with us. So let me welcome you to our show. What's up, Mr. Steve? Welcome to
What's up,
Aftergate.
guys? Thank you for having me. And this is, all new for me, Al. I'm used to radio. I'm not used to video. So, Mr. Steve is for radio only.
Mr. Steve is for radio only. I had to start out there, and for those who don't know, Mr. Steve was his radio name,
Air
uh,
personality name.
air personality name, as we were hosting the show Al Loves Dope Hip Hop Session. Mr. Steve was my host. Man, Jerry
Yeah.
was there. Beanie was there. Shireen Brown. So shout out to that squad, right? Glad to have you here. As I was describing this to my son right before the show, just looked at me like, "Up, the buddies are back together, right? That's the buddy show." I think that's what he said, the buddy show, because that's we go back,
Yeah.
each of us, to being friends, um, back to our freshman year. So
hmm hmm
um, glad to have you here. It's gonna be a special conversation. Hopefully, we won't make it 3 hours long. I mean, you know what I mean? But it'd be good to just hear your story because I think, as I was explaining to my son, you have a very unique story, but one that isn't so unique actually, as I think, as you tell it. But you did walk a path, a very proud uh, path as a black student athlete, and someone who was there remembers that. So I'm looking forward to hearing your story, right? To have you tell it.
hmm
So
hmm
welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's like I said, it's great to see you guys. My whole story is definitely intertwined with your story because we were so close in college and throughout life, you know, after college. And some of the things that I've been able to do after college, I have to attribute to some of you guys. You guys urging me when I wasn't really wanting to be urged.
Well, hold that before you jump into that because we're gonna get to that, and we definitely want to hear you share those moments and reminisce not just with us, but all of our listeners who some may know you and some may not. Um, but before we jump to specifically those highlights, tell us a little bit about what was happening in Steve's world in 87, what was happening globally, what was happening in Philly, what was happening that was shaping your life, shaping that was influencing you and kind of impacting you with even helping you make that decision to go to Colgate with expectations of what Colgate would be like? Just put us in that kind of global
Yeah.
national context.
Well, 87, height of the crack wars. JBM was running Philly up and down. All that was going on in the streets. Not that I was in the streets, but I knew where they were. Um, so there was a lot going on there politically. You had in the city. It was a couple years after move. They dropped the bomb. I
Mm,
was like what 3 blocks away when they did it.
mhm,
Didn't know what was going on until I got back home and saw the fire. So it was a lot of that going on. It was the buildup um, with the military to do a lot of stuff. We had a bunch of bases there, so they was closing down. People were losing jobs. The Navy Yard was changing. So it was a whole lot going on. And it was just, for me to make the move, I wanted to get out of the Philadelphia area. I wanted to change my whole view of what I was seeing because I knew I had to do something else out there other than what I was seeing. Um, Not that I've never been anywhere, but as a young man, when you got all that fearlessness in you, you want to just go out and do something. And Colgate came along, and it was an opportunity. And I wouldn't tell this to Kenny's face, but the only reason I wanted to go there because he was there at the time, and I wanted to learn from him,
Kenny
which
Gamble.
Kenny Gamble, yeah, which I ended up doing. I didn't know I was learning from him, but I actually did learn a lot from him. Didn't realize it until years later.
Mm.
But that was what was going on. I thought I was the man. I thought I had everything under control, and I was it, and it was me. So
mhm.
So
that was my mentality.
can you, for those who might not know when you say move, the move bombing
uh,
and having, I was there in Philly a month or so ago, and your parents just happened to mention that as we were just talking, and it just dawned on me like, oh yeah, that was here in Philly. Can you just
yeah,
quickly just give us a sense of what that was so everybody knows what this is?
yeah. It was a group of I think the Rastafarian religion. They were naturalist nature, and they had a issue with the police, and something had happened, and one of the members that came back to the house, and it was the cops had followed them, and then it was they had built this big barricade over a couple of months. Actually, it was a couple of years. It was building up. Little things would happen. They would do something, build more into the house. So they had kind of fortified their house, and they had a big. They were politically at odds with the city, and once they had an incident where they had a chance to go win. They came in with SWAT and they had a shootout. They didn't, it was a big thing, and it was the first time we had a black mayor in Philadelphia, and they overrode him, and I think it was the state police dropped a bomb on the house, and it was an incendiary bomb, and it set the house on fire. But not only did it set the house on fire, it set about 60 to 75 homes on fire on Osage Avenue. And they
Mhm.
still really, I mean, they built new homes that are sinking, but let's fast forward. I'll talk about that later. But
Mhm.
that area is still scarred from that. And as one of the things that happened is they were the building was on fire. The reports showed that the police were shooting as they were trying to get out, and I think
Mhm.
only 2 people survived. Birdie Africa, which I think he just passed away recently. I'm not sure. I think I heard something on that recently, but he was like 8 or 9 years old when he survived that
Mhm.
whole thing. And that was the whole beginning of the militarizing the police in the city dealing with people of color.
Mhm.
I mean, like on national TV.
Yep.
So that was the atmosphere. We had just had the first black mayor who took over from Mayor Rizzo, who was one of the most staunch police supporters and anti-African American that you can find, in my opinion. Because
Mhm.
at that time, I couldn't go downtown without the police chasing me,
Mhm.
doing something or not. I was just not allowed to be down there. And that's kind of wild. You thinking in 1980 and you're in a major city
Hmm.
and you
So
have the police stalking you.
so now that's your context of pre Colgate, along with being a fairly successful high school athlete, right? You
Yeah,
was I remember seeing paper clippings of you and shit, like right. So I
yeah.
remember thinking, I think like, dang, Steve was he was the man in high school.
Hmm.
Okay, give us a sense then of what life is life for Steve once he gets to college. What's that
um,
life
for
like?
for me, it was I was scared when I got there. You know, I was dropped in the middle of the cornfield, and
Literally.
yeah, and you know, around I never had a problem being around white players because in high school same thing, but it was a whole different atmosphere, and I was nervous. And then I started questioning everything that I had been, everything that I knew as a young man in terms of athletics, in terms of academics. I was just nervous that I was going to do something and didn't belong. And so my first semester, I was just like on pins and needles
Hmm.
the whole time, and just nervous that I wasn't going to be able to cut it or this or that. And so that was like the first part of it. And after being around football team, as we come up early, you get used to it, you get into a rhythm. And then when the rest of the campus came, that was just like culture shock. Had no idea what was going on. Stuff I'm hearing people talk about was foreign to me. So I was just like, wow, what did I get myself into? And
Hmm.
that insecurity, and I never had that before because being an athlete, you can't be insecure.
Right.
Um, First week of classes, I was big in sciences. If you knew me in high school, I was like a big science dude. Went to first chemistry class, first session. The guy wrote had to be two chalkboards full of formulas and different equations, and I was like, yeah, I know that, I know that, I know that. Yeah, and I kind of remember that. I never saw that one. This one I could figure it out because I know this part. But at the end of the day, he got up there and said, if you don't know everything on this board, you need to get out of my class. And
Wow.
so my dumb ass got up and got out of the class.
Peace.
He must be
Peace.
talking to me.
Yeah, I thought he had a direct line to my brain. I was like, oh, time to go.
Right.
And I regret that to this day that I didn't at least give it a shot.
Mm.
Or maybe just take a different science class, math, with a different professor.
Eh, I just it was me. I take it on me because I was insecure. And the one of the things that sticks with me to this day, the first time I went back home, I actually went back to the high school to my science teacher, and she turned her back on me when she found out I was not taking science.
Oh
She
Mm,
wow.
didn't talk to
she
me.
was hurt. She was hurt.
Yeah, so yeah, that was one of the first experiences I had of not feeling like I should be at Colgate.
Mm.
Mm. Now,
Yeah,
you said you expressed insecurity? Was that both sort of, was that just off the field in the academic sense
it
of the
was just
experience,
off the
or
field. On the field,
okay?
I was an asshole. You ask Kenny and them. I thought I was
Hmm.
it even then, but other than that, on the field, he couldn't shut me up.
Hmm. Hmm. Completely different personality.
Definitely a different personality.
So looking back, how do you process your football career? Because you come in as a guy,
Hmm.
Kenny Gamble's ahead of you, so you know, okay, you know, he's gonna be this dude for this year, but after this year, then now's my shot. Here's what they brought me up here for. Yeah, there was other running backs that were in our class and then were ahead of us or back, so I could get this a competitive thing. But knowing that you was the guy in Philly, I'm sure you thinking when Kenny leaves, all right, I'm trying to get some burn.
Yeah, that's what but my whole thing with Kenny is that I knew he was an All American. I wanted to learn everything. I was like, if he's an All American and he's here, I learn what he knows, and I'm gonna be even better. And so that was my thinking coming in, and Kenny, I used to out first couple of weeks I was asking because they put my locker right next to his, so I was just asking him questions all the time. And looking back, he was a senior. He was worrying about graduating. He was worrying about trying out with the pros. He wasn't even thinking about some freshmen, running up asking questions. And he used to always, I used to ask him, Kenny, how did you get this? How did you do this? How did you get that internship? He used to tell me, ask. And I thought he was blowing me off for years. I was like, how did you get this? How are you getting these shoes? How did you know about this? And he was like, ask them. Just ask them. And I was like, Kenny, if I ask them, they're not going to tell me. He was like, Steve, ask. And fast forward, we were at the memorial for T. Rob when he passed, and me and Kenny sat at the same table, and we had the same conversation, and it hit me then what he actually was telling me. He said he just went to the administration for everything he wanted and asked for it.
Mm,
And that's how he got it.
Wow.
But I
mhm,
thought he was blowing me off. He gave me the
mm,
best advice ever. Go, if you want it, go ask for it. All
mhm,
they can say is no.
mhm.
And
Mm.
and that's just on a larger level, not just football.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That
yeah.
yeah.
that he was trying to school me and I wasn't understanding. I was too busy thinking, oh, I got to get the ball. I got to, I'm thinking football. He's telling me about everything.
Right, right, right.
So the feeling was that um, Kenny was there. He was the face of Colgate, and there was many that said it would never happen again. And I don't think it's happened since. And Kenny was the one of the first and maybe the only face of Colgate football. Even with the young man that broke all the records, got the award. He wasn't a face. He was just
Mm.
a player that was real good.
Mm.
Yeah, Kenny was the face of Colgate for 2 to 3 years. Um, so it was, and the other thing that happened is the coaching staff changed when I came in. The people who recruited me were not the people who were there when I got there.
Mm.
So I was a man with no, what they call a Ronin.
Yeah, no, no advocate.
Yeah, I had no advocate. I was my own advocate.
Now there was a black, was it a black running back coach that I feel like I remember?
Yeah, it was
But all right.
Porter.
What was his name?
Porter. I forgot his first
He's like,
name.
yeah, all
Yeah,
right. Okay, we'll
but
leave it at that.
but it was another black running back coach, Coach Rulat.
Mm.
He came in my junior senior year, and he so happened to be my high school coach's frat brother, and he played together. So when he came in, he pulled me to the side and talked to me. He said, "I don't know what you did up here, but they don't want you to play here."
Mm.
And I was like, they can't keep me off the field. They just use me as sparingly, but they can't keep me off the field. Um, but it was great that he was there because with him being there, his family was there. When my parents got into that bad accident my senior year,
Mm.
I had that support. Like I didn't have to go straight home. I had you guys, and I had him. I could go over his house and eat dinner with his family. He was cool like that because he was like my coach. He was his frat brother, and he told him to look out for me, and that's exactly what he did. So I was blessed um, with having him there my last 2 years, which were years I really enjoyed football. We had an overlap, me and Hines. It was a funny story, me and Hines, because he brought Hines in from Florida, the hot shot running back out of Miami, Haitian sensation. And Hines did his thing his freshman year. They tried to make us go at each other's throats,
I remember that.
had us rooming and all this. And at the end of the day, me and Hines looked at each other. We was like, yo, dude, I don't care who plays. If you get more time than me, I get more time. But I ain't got no beef with you. It ain't nothing that.
Mhm.
And from that point on, man, Hines is cool. They
Mm.
couldn't understand. I'm getting less time, and I'm helping him,
Hmm.
with the offense and telling him, what I'm seeing from the sideline when he come over. It's like, what's this? So we got that straightened out maybe 2 weeks into camp.
It's
We
funny
was like,
because, I remember that, and here's why I remember it because I can remember going from freshman year to sophomore year, you anticipating like, yo, Al, like, I want to be that guy. Like, I'm trying to get some burn this year. Kenny's gone, yeah. And then I'm learning that okay, it's this freshman dude that been recruiting. I'm not a student athlete, so I'm learning this process. I'm like, dang, Steve, they done got this, what do you call him, the Haitian sensation. Like,
no, that was
man,
my nickname for
okay, I mean, but still, like
it.
Hans, like, okay, they got this dude out of Miami who's kind of nice, like, and
Mhm.
so the competitor, the not even the competitor, like the hater in me is kind of like, yo, I guess I saw it more adversarial, and but you were real quick to be like, nah, like he's a good dude, he's and I just looked at things differently, like, damn, we all brothers up here. Like, you know what I mean? It just helped me make that sense, that change of like, nah, don't buy into that, Al. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it took a lot, man, because when they when they decided who was going to be the starter, they came in and the coach couldn't even look me in the eyes. He was just like, and I was like, yo, man, just say what you're gonna say, because And he was like, well, we're not going with you. We're going with Hans. And I was like, cool. And I got up and left. And then I think it was like 2 days later, we were sitting at the locker, and I looked over and I was like, Hans, yo, I ain't got no beef with you, man. Me and you, we doing the same thing. You got, I can't stand the coaching staff.
Right.
That's who I got beef with.
Mhm.
And, from that point on, me and Hans was cool.
So
I have no problem.
when you look back at our time there, what are some of the things like you look at as accomplishments, things that you're proud of when you look back at to our 4 years there?
One of the things I like is that even all the stuff we did, positive and negative, we was always in trying to make it a better place for
Mm,
all of us. In terms of, if it was just, we had the cars and stuff, we would get people to different places if they had to get there, parties, um,
mm,
just the leadership that you guys did in the with the pro not programs, but the group. I couldn't really participate in all that. But when you guys were doing it, and I get to come to the planning meetings and put my 2 cents in, that was cool for me because I couldn't be out there in the front. So if I couldn't be out on the front, that was it. Just like when I went down to the fraternity houses and some freshmen wanted to go, I was like, yo, come on. You want to get in? They wouldn't let him in. Nobody going in. Yo, you gonna let me in? You ain't gonna let him in? What? No, nah, that ain't happening. So that's little stuff, but that's just the socialized stuff and the things that I could do, I did do, and
Mhm.
just being a part of not just hanging with the football team and other athletes. It allowed me to deal, to see the other side, and I dealt with a lot of bullshit because people didn't understand what I had to do to be there. And like, oh, you student athletes, you football players, you this, you that, and I could take that because you don't know me.
mm.
So, I didn't hold that against a lot of my brothers and sisters on campus because that's how they thought. Because hell, I could be your stereotype, or I could be me. So it was okay, that, and it was good that I had my group of friends because you guys were, the whole different set of the school in terms of you weren't the football team. So that gave me an outlet and a chance to explore and at least try to grow some little wings, turn from a moth into a butterfly a little bit, and not just be
I'm
a
off to a
football player.
butterfly. Look out, Steve the moth.
So you mentioned that you had felt this sense of insecurity
Mhm.
first year. Did when would you say you came out of that in the remaining 3 years at Colgate? As far as like think of it as a personal accomplishment. You had to have a pivot for you to succeed and graduate Colgate.
What happened was I had an English class my first semester, American Lit, and I never really had to write a paper, and my first paper was crap. I didn't know how to type, so I had to pay people to type my paper. So I had to handwrite everything and then make it legible. And
You
my
telling
first,
the truth now, brother. I'm listening like, wow, he's
He
going
turned his
in.
he turned his light on. Okay, so
I'm, I'm like, he going in. Telling it. You telling it though. I'll stop you when you're lying. Go ahead.
so my first semester, I ended up with the first class. I mean, I had an F at the midterm, and they were like, "Drop, you need to drop this class." And I dug in. I went to the professor. I spoke with him. I dug in. I busted my ass. I think I ended up with like a B plus on the final, and that averaged my grade out to a C minus. And I thought that was an A. And after that, I kind of learned how to prepare for classes. And then I had Professor Wagner, and he taught me how to write. He taught me how to write, and he taught me how to write in the way he gave his assignments. He would give short assignments, and his whole thing was once you make your point, I don't want to read anything else. If you write anything else after you state your point with facts, I'm taking points off. So
Be
he had,
concise.
yeah, his whole thing was he would give a 10-page paper. If you're done in 4, that's what it is. If you give me 6 more pages of bullshit, you're gonna get your mark, get
Mhm.
marked down. So going through that with him was torturous the first couple of years, but first couple of times. But after I went through it several times and went to the office and sat and understood what he was thinking and how he was looking at it, it really helped me. It really helped me a lot because my advisor uh, during this same period when I had that little insecurity, he pointed me out in class and told me I was the exact student they didn't want at Colgate, a Division One athlete, and
Mm.
I didn't belong, and somebody had to tell me. And now
Wow.
this is my advisor.
Mm.
And during the same time period, I was having trouble with the coaching staff, so I wanted to transfer. This joker had my transfer papers all ready for me.
Mm.
Said it was a great
Dang.
idea. And that's what galvanized me not to leave. So this motherfucker have to watch me walk across the stage.
Mm.
And I think he was your boy, Jerry. What's his name? I can't. It was a professor you were cool with. I couldn't stand it.
Which class was this?
It was I can't think of the class.
What department?
It was somewhere in I think.
Somewhere. Man.
I'll get his name.
Okay.
I'll email the podcast so
I'm
it'll
gonna
get out
find him.
there.
Appreciate you. We'll put that on the trivia. We'll get the folks.
Yes,
We're not
yes,
interns out there.
yes, yes, yes.
But he was that's what galvanized me to stay because once he had my papers written up, I was like, what are you trying to get me away from? No, I ain't leaving. And after that, I dug my heels in, and I knew I was gonna do whatever it took to get out. I took it as like it was a game, a football game, and I'm gonna get to the touchdown. He ain't gonna stop me. So
Mm.
that's what really galvanized me. It was him when I came in the office having my papers typed up, ready for me to be out. And he was so surprised because he had made another statement in class about all, student athletes and all, and football players, and everybody got up and walked out of the class, and I didn't. I stayed. And I kept taking notes, went through the class. So when I had to leave on a Friday for a game, he was like, "Well, where are you going?" I said, "I got a football game." He said, "You're on a football team?" I was like, "Yes." And that's when I started having problems with him. Because
Mm.
everybody else walked out and they asked me, how did you say that? I said, because everything he said was not me, so I'm not leaving.
Mm.
Mm.
So that was what did it for me.
Got it.
When
Got it.
you look back,
Hmm.
is there anything you miss about that time?
Yeah, I missed the time. It was like looking back now, man, older gentleman, 53 years old. It's,
Refined.
yeah, it's a lot of opportunities that I didn't explore because I wasn't. I mean, truth be told, I wasn't ready to explore them. But there are opportunities that I wish I would have been able to avail myself to. Even the experience me and you had, Al, with the radio show.
Hmm.
It was all fun and games and joking, but that was something that if I'd have really looked into, there's so many areas that could have went into
Hmm.
with that experience. But I had it, and it opened up my eyes to some other things. But those opportunities, some of the classes that I didn't take. I didn't do any religion classes. Only the one I had to take. I think you know just for graduation. Um, just all the myriad of groups and things that I did have time for, but I didn't make time for. And the beauty of that is when I got married, my wife had a totally different experience at Colgate than I did, and I saw some of it.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the stuff that I missed out on, I instill in my boys that when you go, act.
Mm.
Ask.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is the key. If you
Yeah.
don't ask for it, you definitely will not get it. And that
Hmm.
is the key. The resources are there. You have to go get them. They're not just going to put them in your pocket. You got to go and grab them. You got to ask for them, and sometimes you got to fight for them. But they're there. And if you're on that campus, they're your resources. So that's the thing I look at when I look back is that um, those are the things that I wish I would have availed myself more to.
Are there any other lessons or wisdom that you share with your children? They are student athletes from your experience that you're, passing on to them.
You're good, but there's always somebody better, and
Mm.
that you always have to work hard, and that'll get you through a lot of things. And you have luckily they have talent, but that talent with hard work and determination and confidence, it gets you everything, man.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
You know, all the best players in the world are not playing NBA basketball. They
Yes.
very good, but not the best. Not all of
Hmm.
them.
Hmm.
So, um, and that carries over. It carries over to everything you do. If you go at your job and you're dedicated to it and you go hard, you're gonna make things happen.
Mm. Mm.
So, on that note, we're going to take a pause and take a break for our sponsor. And then we'll come back after this break and wrap this conversation up with Steve Williams. So, this episode is sponsored by Hope Murals. Hope Murals is a nonprofit that provides adolescent youth with an interactive experience of creative expression via an urban arts platform that stimulates both mental and physical development. Please visit their website at www.hopemurals.org to learn more and find ways you can support the work they do. Welcome back. Thank you, Hope Murals, our sponsor for this show. We definitely appreciate all that you do for adolescent youth. Appreciate all that you're doing with the urban arts and just stimulating our young folk mentally and physically. Definitely a lot of need out there. So appreciate what you're doing, Hope Murals. Make sure you check them out and show them some love. If you would like to be a sponsor, email us at aftergatepodcast@gmail.com and make sure you also show some love to the Defy Light Network crew. That's our network that's broadcasting this show. So check them out at that podcast hub. You can go to www.defylifepods.com. You can also find content out there. Check us out at www.godefilife.com. And we also have branded apparel at defylifegear.com. And in regards to this show, make sure you check us out on all of the favorite podcast streaming services from Spotify to Spreaker to we are now on iHeartRadio.
Ooh, ooh.
Ooh.
iHeartRadio. You heard. So check us out. So on
Wow.
that note, I'm gonna pass the mic to my man Jerry so that you can continue this combo with Steve.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, as we go down memory lane, uh, clearly, you know, we would have several more shows to talk about all the ways in which Colgate impacted you. But bring us up to speed. You know, now you fast forward to 2021 and look back. Um, walk us through what life has been like for Mr. Steve from 91 on in terms of professional and personal pursuits, highlights. Um, Enlighten us, please.
Well, when I graduated from Colgate 91, you guys know I wasn't trying to go to school. I wasn't doing anything. I was going back home. I was staying home with my parents. One of the things that I did do that was bad is I had agents that wanted to give me a shot and some tryouts, but I was too arrogant to take the small things they were offering, so I threw that away. Um, and I went, I didn't get the job that I thought I was getting out of Colgate. I missed, got to final interviews on a couple things, and so I walked away from Colgate with no job. So I had to go back to Darby Township, back to seeing the same brothers that was on the corner, and they, joked when I first week I was back. Like, yo, you could have stayed here with us. Right
Hmm.
back. So that was and I just have to give you guys props. So, I know I used to come in my room that year and there'd be an application for this grad school, that grad school. Y'all be throwing on my bed saying, "Yo, Steve, look at this," and I was like, "Nah." Throw it right back in your room. But eventually, I went to Europe for a year and played football, which really helped me see a lot of things differently. I was over there during the Rodney King riot and seeing it from
Mm.
a outside perspective of what America is and how we're treated as African American males. It was, and I was in France where they have their own problems, but they love African American men, and that was a big experience because I got a chance to kind of decompress and figure out what I wanted to do in life. So coming back, I was when I did come back about 8 to 9 months, um, I had a different perspective, and I went got a couple jobs. And I got a job working for a electrical company, and I learned how to read electrical blueprint. And from there, um, Jerry, I went up to work at Double Discovery Center at Columbia University, and I met through Danielle, I met Professor McIntyre, who was running the urban planning department at the time, and it just put all. I actually did go back to Colgate, and I got to give the career center props. I went back um, after I got back, and I looked at what I liked, what I didn't like to do, my skill set, and what would be a career path I can look at. And urban planning was one of the ones that came up. So when this opportunity came at Columbia University, I was working there, so tuition was a lot cheaper. So I applied to the program and got in. And once I got in, I met Professor McIntyre, and he was doing a whole lot of great things in Harlem at the time. So when I went into Harlem, he had written the development plans for Harlem, and they were being implemented. And it was at the infancy. Everyone talk about Clinton and talk about this, but this Charles Rangel and all of them had this planned out. I went in this room in the state office building on 125th Street. Um,
Adam Clayton Bowell Building.
yep, Adam Clayton Powell that looked like an African man. I went in that building and I walked in the room and they had a map of Harlem of where all the development was scheduled to be and where all the money was going. And this was right before this is during Dinkins and when Giuliani,
93,
yeah,
94.
90, 90, yeah, and actually this is before this. This is during Dinkins time. So the Democrats still had control of the House. The money was still flowing. Rangel had just um, well, it was not just, but a couple years ago he had the low income tax credit approved, which allows you to do a low income housing, and they were doing a lot of that housing in Harlem, bringing a lot of money to Harlem, affordable, decent homes. Um, they were starting to do home ownership on the lower end so that people who with marginal money could get in. So, make a long story short, I was sitting in the honeywell of everything that was going on politically, um, and Harlem and in the nation and for that affordable housing. I was an intern for Lionel McIntyre when the empowerment zone legislation was being written. So I was doing the demographics information that uh, Representative Rangel was using to make his points on the floor. I would be up 2 o'clock in the morning, one day, and Mac would tell me, that's what I call him, Mac. Mac would call me and say, we got to get this information to Charlie. Um, I will finish putting the information together and drive over to Charlie Rango's apartment in Harlem.
You mean you couldn't email it?
Not then. Not then. I ran over. He needed a hard copy. I would run. I run over to him, give it to him, and go home and say around 10 o'clock. If y'all were in the C-SPAN, he'd be on the news quoting some of the stuff that I did.
Nice.
And that was just it just blew my mind, the power. And
Mhm.
and it goes back, and I don't want to make a bunch of stories, but the profession of urban planning goes back to my neighborhood when it was integrated, the school district. I went to a meeting, everybody fussing and fighting, and it was this one white guy. He would say, somebody would talk about, oh, why, we have enough, we don't have enough seats for schools. And I mean, we have too many seats for schools. We need to consolidate. And we're going to get rid of these schools. And everybody would turn and look at him, and he would quote some demographics of this is what the neighborhood looks like. And so I was like, damn, who the hell is this guy? And I asked him, I was like, who's this? He's like, seems like he's calling the shot. They was like, no, he's just an urban planner. He's somebody they hired.
That's his job.
He's the expert in the room.
So that stuck with me. And fast forward to when I met Matt, he taught me so much with how you can use urban planning for good and evil, and how he with his plan he had for it. So, working with him, I was able to go to South Africa for a month, study a post-apartheid South Africa, and this is right before the local elections, and they let the South African Ku Klux Klan run everybody off before they voted. This was like the honeymoon period, and it was my honeymoon because I married Danielle at that time. We stayed over in South Africa for like 20 days, 28 days, something like that.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so on Columbia's dime, which was even better.
Hell yeah.
Much better.
So that my career with that just started going, and I ended up getting a job with the organization called Harlem Congregation for Community Improvement, who was implementing the plan that Professor McIntyre had written, and I was in charge of implementing it. And that's when I found my niche of what I like to do. I like to write a plan, but the more exciting part and the more challenging part is implementing it. Because with all of the planning, you have to deal with politics, you have to deal with resources, and you have to deal with people.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to pull all that together is like a puzzle, and it's challenging. It's never the same thing. You can do 50 million affordable housing jobs, and the mechanics of it will be pretty much similar. But when you put the people in, you put the social service piece to it, everything changes. So it's always you come to the table with your toolbox, and then you figure out you got to get a new tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's always been interesting. My first paid job, I was able to get of Virginia Field. She was the borough president for Manhattan for a long time. She, fresh out of grad school, gave me the opportunity to help write a rezoning of 8th Avenue from 125th Street down to 110th. And if you look at it now, all the restaurants are there. And the whole thing was to
Mm.
create a restaurant row, or not even a restaurant row, but create a zoning that would be conducive for development and bring economic development back to Harlem. So I was the one who put together, it was like maybe 30 sites that I did the underwriting for to determine what zoning would be more conducive for developers or entice them to come in. What commercial overlay would be enough and not too onerous on the residents. Um, and it was adopted and it's been implemented. And that was, one of the first things. One of the other things that I was able to do is with working with Professor McIntyre, is I got a chance to go around to maybe 15 different neighborhoods between Brooklyn, Bronx, Harlem, and do neighborhood plans for community groups to look at the resources they have there and how they best can capitalize and move forward with developing the land equitably and come up with the right mix of affordable housing and home ownership and dealing with it. And it was just a plan. It wasn't the end all be all, but I got a chance to learn the city like no other. Then I got a chance to work with a little bit with public housing when they were doing for defensible spaces. And when they were putting these low gates up and not doing the big gates. Um, and that was an experience. I gotta pull them out and find them, but I got pictures on top of a couple of the most famous projects, black and white, in the
Mm-hmm.
wintertime with my hoodie on.
Mm-hmm. Better have that hoodie.
So I got a chance to learn New York like most at that time. I don't even think New Yorkers know the way
Mm-hmm.
just learning the city and learning different parts, and they had playing a part in the development of Harlem, which
Yeah.
is a story that people don't, is a building between 120th and 121st on Manhattan Avenue. It was one of the worst buildings ever in Harlem. I mean, the building was so bad, it had like the sewer had collapsed in the lobby, and it was like bubbling raw sewage. Yeah,
Mm.
it was the worst thing ever. We got that building when I was at HCCI, and we turned that building from 136 units down to about, I think it was 96. It ended up being. We made the units bigger. So the families that were existing would be right sized. So they, a large family, they got the 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom unit. Um, we were able to do and to put a commercial overlay on the bottom. Um, well, the commercial overlay was already there, but we brought the commercial back because there was none on the ground floor. And with that, when you go there now, those people are sitting next to $2 million condos that are affordable to this day. They
Wow.
got a butcher shop in the bottom. They got a chocolate maker, and this is all in Harlem, where everybody said this is not gonna happen. The story is not what happened with Clinton coming to 125th Street. Harlem was already developing. It definitely changed when it went from Jenkins to what's his name? The guy that
Giuliani.
melts. Yeah, Giuliani.
The
Um,
guy that melts. No, you didn't. No, you
and
did
you know
not.
that had to happen in Philly. You know that had to happen.
So, would you say, because I mean, many people look at Harlem as just a story of gentrification, where it is just a typical story of white people moving in, and now things are different, and resources are, but Now, gentrification is like a curse word in many communities. So I'm curious, from your perspective as an urban planner, somebody who was there,
Hmm.
how do you?
Well, the way I look at it is this: there is bad gentrification. There is some aspects of it that are bad, and you have to just be real. There's only so cheap apartments are going to be that's going to be affordable for people to live in. So if you have a resource that you can't lower the price, something else has to give. So they need to start looking at those wages.
Mhm.
That has to be an equation. You can't make apartments free. They cost money to run a building, but you can make it very affordable. And the way Harlem started off, like the Bradhurst plan, if anybody ever wants to look it up, the Bradhurst plan capitalized on the vacant land and the vacant buildings that were there. And the way it was, the very simple way it was looked at is that buildings that had individuals in them, occupied buildings and vacant buildings, you could recreate spaces for people who are already in Harlem to make sure they had decent, affordable housing and work on the services so that they can be serviced. The vacant land you can build and bring other income levels that are not there, and you can do a mix with it. But that was the very very basic premise is that build the initial part of Harlem for who is there. Make sure they're safe and they are in a place where they have affordable housing. So when you do start seeing the value increase, you stabilize the population that weathered it, and then you bring other incomes in. A neighborhood is always a mixed income. It always has been a city, but it not gentrified in the sense that on 115th Street up it's going to be higher income, and then this is going to be lower. It was as the land was, and it started out like that. Giuliani kind of changed the game when
Mm.
he came in. He went straight to a lot of home ownership before it was ready. Now, in the Bradhurst plan, the initial brownstones that were done, they were developed in a way to utilize the rental as part of their income. So you would have a brownstone and you would make it would be a three family. Owner would have a unit and then he would have two other incomes that would come in. So that allowed people to come in and have. There's a danger with that because it's a tipping point. As a homeowner, you have things that might go wrong. But the way it was set up, they had escrow accounts for these low income individuals that went in. They had training. So they became landlords, but they had an income. And as they got an income, it appreciated. And a lot of the people bought those units for, people say, oh, you know, you just price people out. They bought the units for, I think they were like 230 at the time, two
Wow.
hundred thirty thousand. But they had to stay in them for like 15 years, or they had to pay all the subsidy back. And those people end up flipping those things for like $800,000
Right.
in a short period of time. Now those same units are worth $2 to $3 million.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
Hmm.
it was it was set up for people to be able to stay and not leave. But you got to realize this, and I'm gonna say this because I experienced this in New York, and then when I went back to Philly and started working in my own neighborhood where my family barbershop is, experienced the same thing. If you're in a neighborhood and you see it as one way, you can't get your vision to see what it could be. You see what it is right now, so you don't value it. I could come to you and I'm an outsider saying, look, I'm gonna fix up this avenue. This is what's gonna happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm getting out of here. And then as soon as they get out of here from the resources, this is the key for everybody. If you see a neighborhood that's run down and all of a sudden they put sewer systems in that are brand new, buy a house.
Mm,
Hello.
If you see infrastructure going into some place that's not desirable, buy in then.
Hmm.
mm.
Because once the first building go up, it's too late.
That was my
Follow the
yeah.
infrastructure.
Yep.
All the infrastructure.
That's where it's gonna
I,
be.
I,
Lessons learned from Mr. Steve Williams, the urban
yeah,
planner.
yeah. I needed this
And one
discussion
of the
about
things,
7 years ago. You late, Steve.
hey man, one of the things that I've got a knack for is that I've been able to find I mean, I've been able to identify places in neighborhoods that are ripe for development, and that served me well because I did put my hat in and did a little bit of developing on my own,
Hmm.
and that was the way I was able to do it. But my for the most part, my career has been in affordable housing. The last 15 years, I've been developing affordable housing either for a developer as a partner with them or as a consultant. So I've been on I've never worked for any government entity. Columbia was the closest I've ever did. But I've always been in affordable housing. I've always dealt with tax credits. I've always dealt with all the affordable housing programs. Like now with the public housing, I'm doing a lot of rad deals. We're doing stuff in South Carolina, doing stuff in Virgin Islands, New York. I mean, still in Brooklyn. Manhattan, we still got a couple of jobs, but we're the affordable housing game, especially creating and making sure that the public housing stock is safe through the RAD program. And some people fight that and say that you're privatizing it.
Mm.
But it's not, the housing authority never loses ownership of the site.
Yeah.
No, they don't. They give a 99-year lease. That's about it.
Mm.
Mm.
And they're in the ownership. So it's in the, we could have a whole nother podcast about the intricacies of the financing, but that's what I've been able to do. And I think all my experiences, all of the stuff that I grew up with, I grew up around, has allowed me to do this type of work. I mean, not only dealing with the numbers, you got to deal with people, because at the end of the day, you're putting people in these buildings that they don't have the services, even if they can afford the rent, and they don't have the services, they don't have the right support. It's going to turn to crap again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's a holistic approach. And I think living in the neighborhoods I lived in, growing up around the people I grew up, a lot of times I'm the only person in the room who had that experience. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of people just don't know, and it's amazing. And Colgate has taught me that some people just don't know, and it's not like they,
They don't know what they don't know.
Right, right, right.
yeah, and
Ignorance.
it's not like they have no no point of reference to be able to understand what somebody's going through. They might have empathy and they might say, "Oh, this should be better," but to understand, you know, why they still have clotheslines in different places, because nobody want to pay that money to run a dryer.
Mm.
The
Mm.
clotheslines.
You're right.
So, so, um,
Yeah,
let me ask you this: you've had an amazing journey 30 years later, and a parent, so you are
yeah.
someone who often has to offer advice and share words of wisdom to others. So I'm curious to know, if you had the opportunity to pass some words of wisdom to a 21-year-old, what would be, particularly as you look at your experience at school and even after school, what would be some of the words you would share with a 21-year-old?
It doesn't sound like an old man talking.
You are
I
old
know.
man talking.
Old man with
Yeah,
a bad back.
no, my back is good. My back is strong. No, you have to find something that you have a passion for, man. If you have an interest in it,
Mhm.
you have to go after it, because yeah, first of all, you're young and you shouldn't have anything holding you back. Um, and you have to go at it and give it a shot, because if you don't, and you live a life of regret, that'll eat you up. And you have the reason you're young is because you can fall down and you can get up. You do have time on your side. And you know, then as I got older, I got more conservative. But truth be told, you always have a time. You always have time to fall down. Just don't do nothing stupid. You always can fall down. You always can stumble. Um, but you have to go after what you want, and if you're chasing dollars, you're gonna chase misery.
Mm, mm.
You gotta chase what you're passionate at, and you're gonna figure it out and make money at it because that's what you love, and
Amen.
that's something that I'm learning more as I get older.
Wow. Can we add Deacon Steve to the
Nah, we got Reverend now. We don't need a
right,
deacon
right.
unless you want me to.
every
I
every
I
Hey.
I take care of the collection plate.
yeah, that's
Y'all
what I'm
can do
saying.
all.
Every rev need his deacons.
Every rev need a deacon.
Deacon
Shout out to Steve the barber,
Hmm.
our
I
our
was waiting for that to come up.
our official barber.
Yeah, yeah. See,
Yes.
Steve got so tired of ball cutting cats' heads, he went from having shop hours to like, yo, I ain't cutting hair no more. All
I'm
right,
not doing that.
I
I'm
ain't
not doing
cutting.
that. I'm
There's
not
this
doing that.
fresh when you can go speeching in Kwanzaa. I ain't cutting hair no
You
more.
remember that?
I
You remember that?
retired.
Yeah.
I retired. Then it was select heads. It was only select cats, and you had to make an
Yo,
appointment like 2 weeks in
We
advance.
right. But we,
every
the fact that we lived with him, we got love. We got
bro,
love.
the whole deal was you cut everybody's hair, then you don't want to go out.
Man, shout
Yeah.
out to Steve the
You know who told
barber.
me that? TK. He said, "Man, you gonna start cutting hair? They go, you ain't gonna." I was like, I ain't believing.
It was a nice hustle while it lasted, then you got tired.
Retired.
Yeah, we try. I'm actually my kids they don't let me cut their hair no more. My oldest did for a minute, but they still go to Pop Pop. He 84 years old. He'll put a nice cut on me still.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I
Shout
didn't
out to
know that.
Papa Bear.
Hey, next time
yeah.
I come through, Mr. Williams, I'm gonna be like, I know you got your clippers somewhere. What's up, man? Hook a
He
brother up.
got he got him in the box, and when he bring him out, it's like he gonna cuss you out the whole time. Oh, you know, they're gonna ask you how I look. I still got
Enjoy every minute of it.
Still got it. Still got it.
Shout
Nice.
yeah,
out to Mr. and Mrs. Williams,
Yes,
yes,
your
sir. Yes, sir.
yes.
parents, right?
Yes, by the way, my mother's gonna be celebrating her 80th on Saturday.
Oh wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, she's
Send her some blessings for us, bro.
Please
yeah,
do tell
yeah.
her, and please tell her we
I
said
definitely will.
happy birthday. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
but this
okay, sir. Is there anything you would like to promote? We always
Mhm.
want to give our guests an opportunity to, whether it's a Twitter handle, website, initiative, any
mm,
way
How
that,
you can be reached for services to be rendered?
you know what I mean? We got a lot of people listening. So,
well,
anything you want to share?
one of the things I'll share with you guys is um, I can be reached at Stephen Williams. Oh, no, that's the wrong email. That's the
There you
y'all
go.
don't want to. Y'all don't want to do that
They be like, oh, you know, Steve, tell him you owe us some money. Tell him send back that laptop.
Steven013 at hotmail.com. If
Hotmail.
you, Hotmail. I got the original. The original.
Yes. Yes.
You and
Um,
six other people at Hotmail.
and every year they send me like a nice thank you that I'm still rocking.
Handwritten note.
Loyalty matters.
Delivered by mail.
Right.
No, by pigeon. By pigeon. They send the pigeons.
Carrier.
Anybody that have any questions or they have any properties that they're looking to develop and looking at or doing it affordable, to reach out to me. Have resources for small stuff as little as 1 to 2 units, and if you want to do something bigger, 350, 400 units, I can accommodate you there too. So I have a lot of contacts. I have a lot of people I can put you in contact with. I can help you out personally, and it doesn't matter where it is as long as we can get there. It can be done.
Okay, a little freelance consulting there. I ain't mad at you.
Not mad
Yeah,
at you at all, my brother.
Hmm.
Yo, sir, this has been awesome. You
thank
know,
you.
like I tell my son, these are definitely my two closest friends from Colgate. So Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all from freshman year.
Mhm.
From freshman year,
And,
we've been
and
Freshman
and
year.
beyond and beyond.
and who knew? Who
Mhm.
knew?
Man,
Y'all been
Just
ride or die. And so I
just
appreciate y'all.
if anybody would have told me a cat from Philly, a cat from Queens, and a cat from the Bronx is gonna
All
cross
right.
cross paths in the boondocks and live happily ever after, I'd have been like, "She, get
Say
out of here!"
word.
You know what I'm saying? So
Didn't even talk
Hot.
about not one mention of Earlville. Not
right,
one mention of
Ah,
Earlville.
Earlville, they remember us.
So, you know what? That's what it is, right? We don't even need to mention Earlville because if you was there, you was there. If you
If
wasn't
you were
there,
there, you knew.
you just wasn't there.
Right, right, right. Going back to
Yeah,
you don't know what you don't know.
You
yeah,
don't know what you just don't know. Shout out to Earlville.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
So, my brothers, I sure do appreciate y'all. It's been awesome. Any last words before we shut it down?
Now, just thanks everyone. Give me a chance to, tell a couple of my stories. I still got a few more left that I can share with the boys, but just
Nah,
thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys and
Well,
all the stuff you guys did. And y'all, I was telling them a little bit about it before, but what y'all were doing with me at graduation and afterwards, I really appreciate it because it was definitely needed, and you guys did what you had to do to get me out of Philly. So I appreciate it.
hey man, it was all love. I'll say this that I remember one of the first times I met you, I was like, yo, who is this cat? He pushing this sexy Honda Accord, playing ball, but he's not one of those regular football athletes. He
mm,
actually cool with cats, you know. And I was like, Philly like that, you know. I was like, well, who? And I thought you was pretty fly. I was like, this cat's pretty fly, and I'm honored to fast forward 30 years and still think you fly as hell, my brother. So I miss you. Love you, bro.
Definitely same here,
Way
man.
overdue. You know, let's connect at sometime somewhere. Get it on the calendar. I'll come north, come south, meet halfway. Shit, I might be the midpoint. I don't know,
come
but
on through.
let's get something on the calendar, gentlemen.
Definitely,
Wherever it is,
definitely,
I want to be there.
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
So,
yeah, yeah.
appreciate both of y'all, man. So, on that note, just want to thank you, Steve. Appreciate you giving your time. Always thank you. We want to thank our listeners because without them, we just be talking to ourselves. So appreciate our listeners. But this has just been another episode of Aftergate, powered
Yeah.
by the Defy Life Network. Shout out to Defy Life. And make sure you check us out on all of your favorite platforms from Spreaker to Spotify to iHeartRadio. iTunes is coming next. Shout out to our interns. I hope y'all are appreciating our dope new intro. I hope y'all appreciating that intro. So shout out to our interns, Izzy, Kathy, Sophia. Appreciate all that you do. And just make sure y'all check out all of the mini episodes that we got to follow. Appreciate y'all.
And
Peace.
for y'all young heads, get on the social media platforms. There's certain demographics from our group that don't rock with social media, but for those of you who do, we got our young ladies managing it, doing dynamic posts,
Yes.
interactive posts, questioning your knowledge of Colgate
Yes.
trivia that many of us don't know. Engage, participate, refer others, repost, get the word out, y'all.
Build us up.
We coming for you.
We are on the gram. We are on Twitter.
Facebook.
On Facebook. Show us some
Hmm.
love. All right.
Yes, sir. All right, gentlemen. It's
Peace.
been real.
Peace.
Shh. You hear that? Listen closer. That, my friend, is the deafening sound of focus. It drowns out all the useless noise that can clutter the moment. Naysayers don't exist. Haters? Smaters? The peanut gallery? Who's that? When you in your zone, all that noise and all that buzz is just elevator music. So, enjoy your journey, focus on your goal, and bask in the quiet roar that is progress. Because when it's your time to shoot that shot, spit that verse, or close that deal, the only voice that matters is yours. Defy life.